Hi all, just want to quickly give you an overview of the interface on the touchscreen. Basically we've got a whole bunch of tabs. The first tab, the default one, is the dashboard. Here we've got the telemetry, the dry bulb, wet bulb, the stoker burn time, stoker temperature, the relative humidity, the VSD temperature. It's 0 currently because I don't have a VSD hooked up to this unit, but if there was one, you'd see the temperature there. The targets of the stoker and the relative humidity, the CPU of the controller, CPU temperature of the controller, the vent opening, how big the vent is open in the sense of actuator position, 0 to 100%, and then the VSD frequency in watts. Then we've got the slot, or the current active slot information, the slot number, the start and end stoker temperatures, the start and end relative humidity, the static vent, if you have a static vent, cold percentage, start and end VSD percentages, the runtime in hours, the number of minutes passed, number of minutes left, the date the slot started, and the time. Then we have a progress bar here, just for a quick visual reference as to how far this current slot is. Then we have a whole bunch of buttons that we can interact with the slot. We can force the next slot to start. We can end the drying program. We can pause the current program. Pause, what that is used for is, let's say you have a breakage or something broke on the dryer. Then you can hit the pause button. It will put the program in pause mode. It will switch everything off. It will switch the dryer VSD off. It will switch the stoker off. You can then work on it. You can bring the power down. You can work on the dryer. Once fixed, you can just hit the resume button and it will continue. The hold program, what that basically does is it puts the program in hold mode. That creates flat lines. So basically what it does, it keeps the current targets. It doesn't ramp up or slope down. It just keeps them for the whole duration while the program is in hold mode. Edit active slot, you can then, these values that you have here, you can change them, or you can put the dryer into a cool down / damping ordering mode. Sometimes you will dry the tobacco and then leave it over a weekend and then come back on Monday, and then you want to add the moisture again, so then you'll hit this button and start that process. Then we've got the status LEDs here, the power, the battery, sensors okay, is the stoker okay, and did it trip. We've got the name of the controller, the status of the program, and who's logged in. Right, then we go to the drying program. Basically here we can see all the slots of the specific program. We can see basically the stoker temperature. This is what you'll use to enter a line. You've got the stoker temperature, wet bulb, relative humidity, static vent opening, the start and end of the VSD, and percentage cold, as well as the duration. Then we've got these buttons that you can add, edit, or clear the slots. These buttons are used to create, load, save, or start a program. This checkbox, basically, if that's ticked, once all of these slots have been processed, it will then kick over to the cooldown / damping if that's ticked. You see currently everything's grayed out because I'm not logged in, nobody's logged in, so I therefore can't do anything. So here you can see if we want to cool down the dryer, what it will do is it will open then the vent to this value here, so 100%. It will put the speed of the VSD at 90%, and then this is the trigger temperature. Now once we drop below this value, what will happen is it will start with the damping process. What it will do is it will then that's the target of the temperature, and that's the target of the relative humidity, and that is the speed of the fan. So it will make sure then that the temperature stays on 30 degrees and that the relative humidity does not go above 74. This is basically the history. As the slots are processed, it will then show up in this history slot. This is basically the drying program chart of a visual representation of what you see here. All of these lines is basically here, so you can see what it looks like. This is the chart tab shows the current values, or a chart of the current sensor values. So this is the green is relative humidity and the red is the temperature. Manual control, we can manually control the controller. If we don't have a program running, I can switch on and off the relays. I can open and close the vent to a certain percentage, or I can send it manually targets, or I can start and stop the VSD and adjust its speed. The sensors is basically just telling me all the sensors are fine, and I can disable each individual sensor or all of them at once, and the log of who did what when. So let's quickly just show you how this works. I'm going to log in first. I've just got a sample or a temporary password set. Now you can see all of these buttons are now enabled. I can go and look at this drying cycle here. So I can create a new program. Yes, I want to create one. Cleared out everything, and now I can either create my own program from scratch, load, save, or start one. Basically, you start off by giving it a temperature. So it will take the current value for the first slot and it will go to this target. So this is always the target. So let's say I want to go to 28 degrees for argument's sake. Then when it comes to relative humidity, a lot of farmers are used to working with wet bulb and they don't know relative humidity. So what we did is we added the wet bulb here. So if you still old school and you don't want to work with relative humidity, that's fine. We've added this for you. So you can just choose the wet bulb, and as you increase this, you'll see we work out the relative humidity for you. If we adjust this, then that goes back to 0. So it's either this or that. So in this case we want to go to, let's say, 80%. Just another thing that I quickly want to show. If you give it a static vent, therefore we're not going to have the controller control the vent. We just want to open the vent and leave it. If we give this a value, you'll see that this also goes to 0. So then both these values are 0 if we give it a static vent. But in this case we do want to give it a humidity of 80%, and then that goes to 0 as well. Right, the VSD start and end, and the cold percentage. So the cold percentage can be 100 to 50%. You can't go below 50%. Our test showed if you give less than 50% cold, the fire dies. So it depends on where you are in the process. But what we found is that if you ramp, then you have to give more. It's actually quite simple. It's like when you drive a car. When you go up a hill, you have to give more fuel. So when you ramp the temperature, you have to give more fuel. But if you on a level road or a flat line, then you can give less fuel. So this is basically how you add a line. So if I hit add, you'll see it's basically inserted that line. I can insert up to 10 lines, I think, because its standard drawing program is around 8 slots, but we've basically given 2 more. But if I don't want to create this from scratch every time because it's tedious, I can just go to load, say yes, and load a preset. So let's say we load preset 2, and we've got those slots, and if we look at the program chart, that is what we basically entered in the slots. So it's a visual representation of the slots. but I'm not happy with that one, so let's go load and say preset 1. Yes, and then we have all those different slots. If we look at the program chart, that's what we have there. Alright, so let's go and then say let's start the program. Yes, we want to start from the current position. Yes, and it's now taken the first slot. You see now it's gone to slot 2 there, and slot 1 is basically now here. It's active. It's now basically got the targets, worked out the targets, and every minute it will work out new targets that the controller will chase on the temperature and humidity side. So you'll see now, as soon as the first minute ticks by, and this minute says this should basically, oh no, let me just see, which way did we go? 28. Oh, it's going to go the other way. Yeah, that's fine, because we're actually reducing. I think we said it is from 28 to 28, so therefore that's going to just stand still. It's not going to move. But anyway, so here we've got those buttons enabled. So if I pause the program and I say yes, it will then switch off everything and put the program in pause mode, and then once I've fixed the dryer, then I can hit the resume button again and everything will continue. The same with hold. I can hold and then resume or end. So now let's say I'm happy, the tobacco is dry and everything's done, then I can just hit end and it will stop. If I go and look at the logs, I can see who did what. Alright, so that's just a quick overview. Obviously there's a lot more when it comes to setting certain things, but I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of how the user interface on the controller itself works. We've also got a web interface. It works a similar way. You see the same information. I'll show you in another video how the web interface looks, and there's a dashboard also that you can get to all the controllers from the dashboard or the portal, and to the grading room's humidity control systems as well. So if I hit log off, it will log me off, or if I leave the controller alone for 10 minutes, it will auto log me off and disable everything again. So you can't have somebody just coming to the controller and hitting buttons. So yeah, I hope that's useful. Thanks.